It's the Odd Drunk Podcast, a very strange podcast, the drunkest show in the world. It's Jackson and Colton talking out of their ass. We don't care as long as drinks are poured. Sometimes we have our friends here. We will talk about anything. We don't care as long as we have beer. And if you let that whiskey ring. The Odd Drunk Podcast.
The Fallout TV show comes out this coming Friday,
Yeah.
and
I'm skeptical but excited.
yeah, It looks good.
Mhm.
It looks like they're being pretty
The
faithful.
costuming and the
But the last
stuff
time
looks
I got
good.
excited about an Amazon show, it was Rings of Power, and that burned me pretty hard. So,
Yeah, that was a bummer. Yeah, to say the least. Um,
but I've been
we're
playing
recording.
Fallout New Vegas recently
Oh,
again,
nice.
and
Of course.
I came to a realization that in the Fallout series, there is one thing that Bethesda did with those games that was genius, just pure peak game design, and it's the
That.
radio.
Oh yeah, that's one of the
Because
best parts.
wandering around the Mojave with like old 50s country music playing, that's just like
Yeah,
good vibes. Yeah.
yeah.
Shooting
It's just
geckos, listening to some Hank
yeah,
Williams, good vibes. Yeah.
yeah. I remember my first time in that world, and the soundtrack definitely added to the immersion. Um, Anyways, yeah, we're recording.
Yep.
Welcome to the Not Drunk Podcast. Uh, this episode, it's gonna be a little. It's gonna be the first kind of.
Well,
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 okay,
experimental.
bit of a
We're
warning here.
trying a
Uh,
new thing with this episode, sort of.
this is gonna be an incredibly loose episode. This is 99% off the top of our heads. Um, but we are asking a question and attempting to answer said question. Well, speculate and just have fun with it.
Yeah.
This isn't meant to be taken seriously. Nothing we're saying is what we believe, or at least I
This
think what we
is
believe. If you can state
yeah.
that if you want, but this is just for this is just a thought exercise. And
Yeah.
it's not even really a philosophical, like we're not framing it anyway like that. It's just metaphysics thought exercise.
It's we're gonna be talking a little bit of philosophy, but take it with a grain of salt. This is the equivalent of two really stoned guys just who think they're really,
Hey,
discovering the
I didn't say
universe.
it.
Um,
I didn't say it. I
I'm
didn't say
not
it.
I'm not stoned,
No,
but I
I'm
am
not. I'm
drinking.
just drinking.
But
Yeah.
it's that gonna be that sort of energy. So
Given our both of our jobs, it's not necessarily the best idea. Um, Even though I don't have random drug testing, but still not the best idea. But I
no,
got a really huge beer.
I can see that. That's a very big beer.
It's like bigger than my head. Well, it's not open yet. I want to open it for the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, no fizz.
Oh no, I didn't hear any crack there. Don't worry. When I open my next beer, I'll get a good beer crack there.
Anyways, my dad's been up here, and I'll definitely post a picture of this bad boy. I mean, it is as big as my bottle of rum here. Just for comparison,
Yeah,
they are roughly the same size.
that's massive.
And I'm back. But anyways,
No.
yeah, it's a massive beer. Um, my dad picked it up on his big motorcycle trip. They had a motorcycle rally in Scottsdale. We
Oh,
actually saw
nice. Nice.
George Thorogood and the Destroyers last night.
Oh, sick. Sick.
Pretty fun. That old geezer, um, still playing. Crazy.
I like George Thorogood, yeah.
But yeah, this is out of Bisbee, Arizona. Way down south by the border there. Heard it's really nice. I've been throughout northern Arizona quite a bit now. Now I got to go that way, south. But
Yeah.
I'm from Bisbee, Arizona, from Old Bisbee Brewing Company, and it is just says it's an IPA. That's all it says.
Just IPA.
IPA, 7, either that's 7.2 or 7%, or 72. I hope it says 72.
72%. Holy shit. That's
Yeah, one of those beers. Um, oh, and it was apparently brewed on April the 2nd.
so fresh.
Yeah, fresh
Fresh. That's
brew.
good. I know a guy, I have a good friend who is very he's been a brewer at a bunch of different breweries
Yeah, that's quite strong.
over the years. And he's very picky. He does not drink beer that's like more than like a month or two old ever. So he's if when he's in the liquor store,
It does go back.
he's
I
going
will
through
agree about
six
that.
pack by six pack, looking at the bottom of the cans to see the expert or the canned date. Um, I've got it here.
Taking a quick pick.
We've had a few times on the podcast. Starburst from
Oh, that stuff's
Ecliptic
great.
Brewing.
Yeah.
It's just a really, really solid IPA. I like it. It's good. I was at
Yeah.
the I was at the liquor store today. I was at Star Liquor today because they were more
Hell
convenient.
yeah. Classic.
And I was looking through their beer selection and I was like, yeah, let's go with a ye old faithful here. Um,
Nice.
I
Yeah.
almost bought some rum,
Ecliptic Brewing.
but I
You
decided that I
almost made a good
didn't
choice.
need both rum and beer, and I definitely wanted the beer. Um, so I didn't get any rum.
I know I had someone ask me a question, do you prefer beer or alcohol? And I said both. Um,
Yes.
yes. Yes. Anyways. And I also got some bamboo rum that I've had the last few episodes. I've made it last. I've made it last this time for
Nice.
a couple weeks. I'm extremely disappointed in myself though because the cork was super dry when I first got it, and
Mm,
like half of it broke off, so it's like floating in the bottle.
I hate when that happens. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, there it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I see
So,
that.
but
Yeah.
it's just long enough that it still works as a
Nice.
cork. But it's like soaked up probably like 10% of the rum. Maybe
Well,
not
now,
10, like maybe
well, now you
5%.
got to eat it. When you
Or
finish
just
the
suck on
bottle,
it.
if you can get it, yeah, get it
Suck
out of the
on it like
bottle
a
and suck on
lemon.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, fish it out of there. But anyways, yeah, we have a little bit of a different episode here today, boys and girls and people and whatever. I better stop myself from saying anything. Just not saying anything. No, but we got a different episode here. We are asking a question. You see the title. What happens after you die? And before we even start discussing that question, or
Hmm.
before we get there, I want to explain why I kind of thought of this as an episode. And I
Okay.
also want to explain the kind of the idea that this just asking a question, it could be any question. Um, you know, what is the meaning of life, or is there what is just what is, we could
Yeah.
just ask that question. uh
Yes.
what is are unicorns real? Just any question. And I think, that could be a fun thing.
Yeah.
Just ask a question and then we just go off for a bit. um and also, well, we recently did another SCPs episode. Check
Hmm.
it out if you want a spooky episode. And there's a SCP called What Happens After. It
Right. Right.
explains this incredibly gruesome process in which this guy dies, and he like feels every atom cell of his body rupture and all this stuff, and then they bring him back and he's like, holy shit, we got to keep people from dying because it sucks. It's not like hell, you're just deteriorating forever and whatever, which is its own hell in itself. But so that kind of started it, and then coincidentally I got a YouTube video recommendation. uh, this guy did a tier list of different theories of what happens after you die.
Hmm.
And I was like, you know what? This could be an interesting topic. And for anyone listening, and for anyone religious listening, or atheist, whatever you subscribe to or don't subscribe to, this is just a thought experiment. This is
Yeah,
just
it's
for
just
fun.
a fun
Um,
thing to talk about. If we say
we are
anything
not,
that you disagree with because of your beliefs, take it easy. We don't mean
yeah,
anything
take
by
it
it.
easy. We don't mean, yeah, or
Yeah,
we do,
like,
but it's a
but
podcast.
we're not trying to step on beliefs. We're just
And also,
discussing.
this is going to be an exploration of the different ideas, different theories, and beliefs on what happens after you die.
Yeah.
Because, honest to God, I mean, well, no pun intended, but honestly, um, no one knows.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
I like the idea of talking about this sort of thing. I have a, I wouldn't call it a passion. I would call it a hobbyist level interest in
huh,
philosophy. I like reading about
yep,
stuff like that. And
that would be a
the
great
the
paper,
question
honestly.
of what we do after we die is, it's a weird question because there's a lot of belief that's built behind um
Yes.
different theories of it. So it doesn't fall neatly into some philosophical arguments, but it is still technically a topic in philosophy, and there is stuff
And
to be said about it, because what is philosophy if not just trying to answer questions that
it's
we don't have physical evidence for? That's
one
all
of
it
the
is. That's
ultimate
all philosophy
open
is.
and yeah, it's one of the ultimate open-ended questions, since we begin to have a conscious and think about our surroundings. Um, and it's one of the questions, one of the things, one of the reasons that led, you know, well, not the reason, but one of the reasons, one of the things that led to religion and, you know, uh, trying to explain these things.
Right,
And
right.
then science comes around, and even that can only explain so much on what happens after. We know what causes it, death. We know how the process in which we are born, but we don't know what happens after. And there's plenty of theories out there. I'm sure there's some scientific theories or ideas, or everyone's got their own. Ooh, I
Yeah,
have the evidence, or I had a near-death experience.
yeah,
Um, everyone's got that. Well, not everyone, but there's a lot of things out there floating around.
yeah.
I think it would be fun. Just to start, let's just go through some of the most popular ideas,
Right, right,
just to kind of get us going. Um, so one that I actually kind of like, and not necessarily doing like a ranking on like what's actually. Let's start at the like most scientific one, the atheist one. You know, and well, I say the most scientific, but this is the most practical and the most, for a lot of people, logical explanation.
yeah.
When you die, you just cease to exist.
Yeah, well,
And um
that's a whole, I mean, honestly, the idea.
we don't okay, well, there's a famous quote from Mark Twain actually, and I have it so I don't butcher it. I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born, and I had not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it.
Mhm.
So basically, the idea is like we didn't exist until we were born. So what's the difference when we die?
I mean,
But
this
then,
that's kind of an interesting. I was thinking about this before we recorded. Personally, because I'm not religious, the short answer for my own thoughts on it is I have no reason to believe in an afterlife. Obviously, I don't know, but so I spend
Yeah,
more time myself thinking about my relationship with death rather than what happens afterwards. And that's kind of that can of worms where it's like the idea that maybe there is no afterlife is
and
that's
let's talk about that.
yeah,
Let's talk about non-existence as one of the options.
well
Um,
I think it was uh
Here's the issue. Well,
Socrates talks about death a
yeah,
little bit, and he basically goes, if there's either two options, there either is an after, so either death is an endless sleep, nothing happens, you just cease, or death
which
is a
that could be
transition
comforting.
into an afterlife. And he goes, either way is cool because
Either
we
way, it's
all
cool.
know
Well, it's
I
a
need the
transition. I
rest.
think we can
Yeah.
agree that there is a transition.
Yeah.
You're living, you die. What is that transition? Okay,
Hmm.
your heart starts beating. You stop thinking, or at least that's a theory. We'll get into ones where your consciousness remains, and well, and that's part of like afterlife
Hmm.
stuff, or
Yeah.
perhaps part of like becoming one with the universe if your chakras are aligned, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or we could talk about simulation like Matrix. Oh, you're just unplugged and then someone restarts, or like it's the Rick and Morty game where they live the whole guy's life.
Yeah.
So like, you know, but the whole idea, okay, you die, you cease to exist, you stop thinking, and if you can't think, if you don't have a consciousness, if you cease to exist, then there wouldn't be any suffering.
Yeah.
It definitely wouldn't be as bad as hell.
I mean,
It um,
the
it's
idea
just
of
nothing.
non-existence
But
is
that's so foreign.
yeah, is from an existential perspective is kind of frightening, but I also think
Yeah, because
it's
personally, I like existing. It's
yeah.
pretty cool.
Well,
But there's a
it's
lot of people out there that do not have a good existence.
yeah.
Um, but either way, not existing, we're not thinking about it. It's not like you die and you're conscious and then there's just nothing. So
Hmm.
like you're thinking and you're just kind of in this weird, just in this void.
Yeah.
That's not. I mean, yeah. I mean, I reasonably don't think that would be a possibility, and if it is, that would suck. But uh, you know, but just ceasing to exist, poof, you're gone,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Well,
That isn't the worst. That isn't the worst option. There's definitely worse.
well,
But we'll get
part
into
of
it.
my I was reading
We
recently,
read
kind of
Dante's
good.
Inferno. We'll get into the
Yeah.
to hell and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
that'll be fun to talk about. But like you mentioned, was that Mark Twain that you quoted?
yeah, Mark Twain.
Um, that quote like kind of reminded me of something I was reading earlier. It was, this is probably wrong. I want to say it was Hegel, so I'm gonna say it was Hegel. Probably wasn't. Uh, said something about like theorizing like why do we fear death? And there's kind of a theory of it's not that we fear death, it's that we fear missing out
Mm-hmm.
on what we could live. But then he goes,
Yeah.
but we also there's also so much that happened before we lived that we missed out on. But we don't worry about having missed out on
We don't worry
that.
about well,
So
people,
why would we worry
like
about missing out on what will happen after we're gone?
we play around and speculate, oh, if I had a time machine, if I could go back. Or
Yeah.
I was born in the wrong time. I should have been born in the 70s or whatever. Um, we kind of play around with that, but that's not like a fear.
Yeah,
I'm not I
like
don't
a
feel I'm not fearful that like, oh shucks, I
like
should have been born in the
would I have
1800s.
loved to see Johnny Cash in
Why would you want
concert
that?
in his
Of
prime?
course.
Of course.
That's a want.
But does the
That's a
thought
want.
yeah, But does the thought that I was not alive when he was in his prime
Terrify you?
fill me with existential dread? No,
No.
I'm
But the
okay with
thought that
it.
you'll miss, well, you'll miss your family, your friends, you'll
Hmm.
miss opportunities. And, people even joke around are like, okay, if I can see this movie or see this band in concert or go to the World Series or whatever, if I can do that, then I can die happy.
Yeah,
People say that kind of thing. Um, and, but that's never final because there's always another thing that you want to do and another thing you want to see.
right.
And there's always going to be people you're going to miss and that you're
So
going to
many
be
video
worried
games I
that you're
haven't
going to be gone.
finished.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I got to finish Dragon's Dogma. I got to finish,
There's video
I
games that but I have to remind myself
video
there's
games I
video
haven't
games that
played.
I'm realistically never gonna finish because I have a very short attention span with
I
video
saw a video
games.
essay.
So
I saw a video essay that was like, "Oh, you'll never be able to play like every game. Like it's just not possible." But I don't want to play every game. I want to play
yeah.
good games. Thank you very
I
much.
used to slight side tangent.
But yeah,
I used to honestly stress myself out about like finishing video games
yeah,
because
yeah,
like I do sometimes have a short attention span with video games. Not because I don't enjoy the game I'm playing, but because I'll be playing a game and then later that night I'll be watching YouTube and a video will pop up of, Metal Gear Solid 5 and I'll be like, "Ooh, I should go play that again." And then I'll go play that for a little bit and forget about the game I was playing before.
yep.
And so this continuous cycle of me
You're just
just
hopping around.
hopping around in games and not actually getting in like progressing in some of them.
Right.
Um, but recently I've just been like, no, I'm just gonna play what I feel like playing. It's cool. I
Yeah,
don't have
that's
to
what you feel
finish a
like.
game if I don't feel
When you're
like
in the mood.
finishing it.
Yeah, I've only got 15 hours in Assassin's Creed Mirage. Um,
Yeah,
and it's decent. It's fun enough. It's kind of more classic formula, but
I still haven't played
it's
it,
not scratching my itch right now.
which is
It's just
crazy considering how much of an Assassin's Creed fan I am. But it's
and
on
it's a good game. Beautiful setting.
It's on the Epic Game Store, and you can
It's
totally get Epic Game Store stuff
Middle Ages
running
Baghdad.
on the
It's
Steam
cool.
Deck. On the Steam Deck, you can totally get Epic Game Store running, but it's kind of I just don't
Mm.
feel like dealing with
Anyways,
that.
wait uh, we digress. So yeah, I
We
admit
get
that you would miss
distracted
out.
by video games.
Yeah,
Shocker.
yeah, and I like video games, and not being able to play them would suck. But if you're not conscious for it, then it's not going to affect you either way. You finally die, and then that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all she wrote. You're not thinking about it because you're not thinking.
Well, and there's also all sorts of
But I don't
thoughts
think,
about how
and this isn't me like implanting any spiritual beliefs or religious beliefs, but I actually don't think that would be necessarily the case.
yeah.
And this goes to like quantum physics, to
Mm,
Einstein, because
yeah.
energy is neither created or destroyed. So theoretically, in theory, our consciousness, which our brain, we understand more about outer space than we do our own brains.
Yeah,
Uh,
brains are just remarkable.
it's an enigma. It's the most advanced computer in the world. Even yeah, there's a lot of dumb people, but it's the most advanced computer that we barely know anything about our own brain. So what consciousness is, I mean, we know it's a neuron firing, but that's energy.
Yeah.
That doesn't just cease to exist.
Yeah.
That doesn't just go away. It has to go somewhere. And this kind of brings us into some other theories. And this doesn't even
Yeah.
necessarily have to be overtly religious, but like
Well, there's all sorts of theories that I mean,
there's
hell,
an
there's
idea. I've seen theories uh that we're just in a loop.
yeah.
Like we've already lived our life who knows how many times. And
Hell,
you've never
maybe
remembered.
my life is flashing before my eyes right now.
Yeah, Who's to say?
And then when it's done flashing before my eyes, it'll
Restart.
flash
You
before my
respawn.
eyes again in that
You
flashback.
respawn. But you don't remember, you don't have your previous save file, right? You don't remember anything, so it feels like it's new
I
again.
don't I don't
So
remember
in
which I
theory,
don't remember which mods I had installed, so I just had to reinstall all them again
in
and start
theory, I'll get
anew.
to, yeah,
Like
in theory, I'll get to watch Breaking Bad infinitely, and I'll forget it, watch again, and be like, oh my god, I can't believe I waited this long to watch a show, and then die, and then wait too long to watch it, and then oh my god, I forgot to watch the show, watch it, die. So that's cool. So that theory definitely beats the whole nothingness thing because,
yeah.
but it's really no different,
Well, and there's also
at least from your
theories.
perspective, because if
Yeah.
you forget your whole life and then you when you die and then you're back,
Yeah.
what does that mean to you? It doesn't mean anything. It's like you lived your life once
Well, there's
and then you
also
remember again.
beliefs about um after we die that just don't not saying they're not saying that there's not an afterlife, but like beliefs about um how we can live on in certain ways. So like one of my favorite ideas is that we live on through the memories of people who knew us
For the memories, yeah.
and the stories
And
about us.
I've even
So
thought about
like
this.
we if I were to die tomorrow, maybe I'm gone from my perspective. It's and but in some ways I would still be present in the world.
Yeah, and we're not talking about ghosts.
No. I
We're
mean
not there
like
yet.
I mean
But like
through
just through people's
yeah.
memory. Yeah, and this podcast, I mean, we have
Yeah.
fuck 170
This is episode
episodes of us
171. This one is.
of but of us talking.
We
We've
we're
had
we're
guests,
like we're
you know.
like
We
we're
need to get
like
more guests, but
30 or 40 episodes away from beating out The
from
Office.
yeah. But think about think about this though. I mean, like, who knows how long civilization's gonna go around, but we're gonna be around. Our discussions here, all our drunken tirades, all our stupidity, all our brief moments of reason, it's gonna go on
Yeah.
way, 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 way beyond our deaths. Whether we're in the cloud out there, oh, the Odd Drunk Podcast, this show from 100 years ago. It's just wild to think about because we've put ourselves out there. We're out there, and that's cool to think about. And I can that gives me a little, not necessarily. I mean, it's not going to
Here
matter to me.
here's this, Jackson. Here's this for you.
That's cool.
Steve Carell
We
left
have
the op
hundreds of
Steve
Oh,
Carell left
okay.
The Office on episode 148. We have more. We're officially into the
There's
post
that many
Steve
episodes
Carell.
of The Office.
Oh, yeah, it was like 205 or something like that. Yeah,
Wow, Jesus.
so somewhere around there. Yeah, but we're officially have more episodes of the podcast out than there are episodes of The Office with Steve Carell in it.
With Steve Carell. But like
Yes.
even that, like after any, well, history. I mean, the only reason we know anything about anything and about any of these people we talk about like ancient philosophers, is because somebody recorded that.
Yeah,
They
I
wrote
got
it
my.
down or they passed it along. Either way,
I spent
they
four
live on.
years in college studying dead people.
Yeah, and they live on. We're talking about them all the time. Kids are getting failing over them, or they're acing and they're happy over it, or dreading writing about Mark Twain and reading his dumb books about Tom Sawyer. You know, but he
His
lives
dumb
on.
books. Yes.
I mean, well, they're actually really Mark Twain's an amazing writer, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. He lives on. Everybody we've ever talked about lives on that way.
Yes.
As
Yeah.
long as you leave some kind of imprint
Hell,
in
hell.
the world. I mean,
Keith Richards is still out there playing shows, and he's been dead for like 20 years. So
Yeah. Yeah,
don't know how he
exactly.
does it, but
Well, yeah, and think about that. Like, people. Well, I'm wearing a Nirvana shirt. Like, Kurt Cobain's been rest in peace, dead for 30 years. I'm not gonna get into all that, but he lives on through his music,
yeah,
and all that's a cool thing to think about, and that gives comfort, even if there's nothing, you know, even if it's non-existence after, knowing that people will remember you and that you as a entity, just a piece of you, lives on
yeah, yeah.
out in the world.
You were not
And people are
gone,
talking about
even
your
if you're,
memory's not gone, your
yeah,
ideas aren't gone, your not, all that. That gives comfort.
yeah,
But yeah, the looping thing, like you just respawn. Imagine if you're a stillborn child or something, like, so you just respawn, die,
uh,
respawn, die, but you always forget.
but yeah, but they don't
So
know, so it's
you
fine.
don't know, or if you're enslaved, or and this also opens a can of worms where it's like everyone who's ever lived ever is simultaneously alive, or at least in their perception. Like,
Yeah,
everyone who's ever lived is living in their own perception, right?
yeah.
If the looping thing is real. Um, and then another thing, before we get like crazy into like religious beliefs. Well, this one is one of the first ones I want to talk about, actually. Um, reincarnation.
Hmm. Yeah.
And this one also goes along with the idea that energy is neither created or destroyed. It's got to go somewhere. It's still there. Um, and you just reincarnate. So, like, after we die, you might, depending on your karma. Well, even besides, some people think it could be random. Buddhism believes it's based on karma, or
Right.
or is that Hinduism? I don't want to get this wrong.
Um,
I think both have.
I don't
I don't
remember.
want to.
I don't remember.
But either way, based on your
Um,
karma, you might end up being a lion or a snake, or you
yeah,
might end up
the
being just a fly,
the
or
type of Buddhism that
what's
I've read
cool?
up on is the Zen Buddhism, which is less,
Then yeah.
it's a little bit less spiritual
Well,
than
I
like
think there's
than
another
like
idea where
traditional
you don't
Buddhism.
reincarnate, but you rather become one with the universe, or and that's another thing. But reincarnation, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
That would actually be kind of cool if
Yeah,
that's
I
real.
mean,
Because if that's true, because you get to play as different, you get different playthroughs essentially in
yeah.
life. It's like after I die, you might respawn as a lion hunting elephants in Africa, and like that's your playthrough. And
Yeah.
and then you die, and then maybe you're a physicist, or and then you die, and maybe you're just an ant, and then you die, and then maybe you're just a tree, and then after, well, until you get chopped down or something, or you're a well preserved tree like the white tree of Minas Tirith, like,
The
or
yeah,
is it
the
dead? Either way, or
no, it's still alive,
maybe
but
it is still
they
alive.
have
Yeah,
the vision of it being burned.
yeah. Either way,
Yeah.
after eons of being a tree, then you finally die, and then, oh, now you're platypus. I don't know, but what's
Platypus
cool about that? You get all these different
puts
playthroughs,
on a
all these
hat.
different
Harry the platypus. Yeah.
perspectives, and so in many ways, that's one of the more ideal,
I
not
like
the most ideal,
I
but
like the
one of
idea
the
of
more ideal.
reincarnation.
Yeah, it's one of the more ideal forms of afterlife. And I've known people that said, I knew this lady that was like, yeah, I used to be an Egyptian princess and all this stuff, in my past life. But
Reincarnation is a belief in Hinduism, but
it's Hinduism, also Buddhism.
also some Buddhists believe in reincarnation.
Yeah,
I'm not I'm
yeah.
not I'm not familiar with Hinduism like at all. Other than I had some neighbors when I was a kid who, or when I was in high school, who moved in next door, and they were Hindu, and they invited us over for they had a ceremony to like kind of I don't know, bless, I guess, their house.
Okay, that's
And
cool.
it was super cool. They had a what is the Hindu equivalent of a priest? Are they called priest? I don't know what they would be called. Um,
I don't want to
eh,
say anything
and
offensive.
yeah, I'm like really
I don't want
treading
to even
because I
guess.
don't know the terms and the positions and stuff like that. But I remember him being very cool and answering questions very like in a very earnest, like he was actually interested to hear our questions for him, which was very, very cool. And she also, the homeowner, the mom made um like a tofu like curry dish that was just so good, delicious. That had nothing to do with
That
the
sounds
Hindu
amazing.
part, but it was
No,
very,
but
very
so
good. I remember it though. I remember it. No, Buddha, I guess it is part of some types of Buddhism.
yeah,
Um,
so
not all Buddhism really falls in because some forms of Buddhism I know are less spiritual.
mhm.
Not that they're not spiritual at all, but they're more
But it's more about
philosophical than they are
how
like
you live your life
yeah.
and karma and yeah.
I really like Buddhism, but I could not be a Buddhist for a few reasons. But I admire. Well,
So,
it's because Buddhism. I mean, you're familiar a bit with the idea of in Buddhism there is the idea that um everything is one, everything is like a construct,
that's
nothing
another
actually exists by itself, and that the idea is that
right.
in true enlightenment is not just understanding this, but truly internalizing and understanding it in a way that's kind of hard to comprehend if you're not enlightened. Um, and um, I kind of had a realization when I was learning about this that um, Buddhism does force you into a perspective of moral, at the very least, moral skepticism, if not moral nihilism. um,
Oh yeah, we've discussed that.
so I decided as much as I admire Buddhism, I would not be able to be Buddhist, not truly. I would be
Right.
faking it if I were
Maybe
to say
annoying.
I was Buddhist. But
Um
I admire it though.
but reincarnation, yeah, I mean imagine if you become a acclaimed actor. Or whatever. It's like you wake up and you're Willem Dafoe. You know, that'd be pretty cool.
It'd be pretty cool. Apparently, he has a big dick. Um,
There you go. So you get that,
have you heard that story? I don't know what movie it is. There's a movie that
like Jesus, right?
the
So
sto yeah
what?
the story
I
is
think it
that
might have
he
been.
had to have a body double for the nude scene because his dick was too big. I don't know if that's true. That's just what I've heard.
I would believe it. Things like it. Yeah. But yeah, reincarnation. What would you want to be reincarnated to?
I would want to be reincarnated into. Hmm, that's a good question. Um,
I'd like to
I
be a bird.
I was thinking bird of some kind.
Just see what it's like to fly and
Yeah,
just be a
I've
dick,
yeah I was thinking
You know?
magpie, maybe a magpie, because magpies
Yeah.
just are dicks. And they get away with it. Just people let them
That'd
get
be a
away
fun
with it.
playthrough. Yeah.
Yeah, just they, there's no repercussions. They're assholes and they get away with it.
And and I know, yeah, karma goes along with like what you reincarnate as. I think like if you commit suicide, it's gonna be something bad, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But so it's like you can't just like end your playthrough and then expect something good and but
Yeah,
if you think of it like
yeah.
that, like life is just a playthrough and you're gonna get another one.
Just go watch some
Yeah,
tier.
that's
Just go
comforting
watch
and that's
some
cool.
what's it called?
And
Tier Zoo or
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, see which one you want to respawn as.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I've seen those.
one of
I've
the
seen those.
best. It's
Really
one of
cool.
the best YouTube channels.
Oh yeah, top tier. No pun intended. But yeah, reincarnation. So we talked about non-existence. We've talked
Mm,
about the loop, and we've talked about reincarnation.
yeah,
Okay, going from there, reincarnation also kind of plays into the dream theory.
I'm not
I
as
don't know
familiar with the
who
dream theory.
I don't know who necessarily came up with this, or but it's just this idea that our dreams are actually us peering into either someone else's.
Oh
And it
yeah,
can go with a couple different things. It could go with like we're all one, so we're just looking into another person's life because we're connected, or it's the idea that we're peering into a life we've lived before,
mm.
or perhaps a life we could live in the future. I don't know,
I've heard
but
theories
dream
that
theory
dreams
kind of goes
are
along with that,
like peering into a
or like multiverse.
multiverse. Yeah,
Yeah. So like dreams you have actually happen. Man, I had a dream last night and it was crazy because it was like Gareth Edwards' Godzilla, where it was like from human perspective and
nice.
Godzilla's fighting the big monkey, the orangutan guy in the new movie.
Yeah.
But people were getting slaughtered by like these huge Kongs and stuff. It was awful, terrifying. But Godzilla saved the day and he didn't step on me, so that was cool. But what if that was real? That's what dream theory says. And that
I had
actually happened in
I don't
either one of
remember
my
most.
lives or
I
somewhere out there in the multiverse.
I don't remember most of my dreams.
I remember
Um,
that one.
most of the
There's
time,
parts of it.
I usually only just remember one little part. I know last night rock climbing was
Oh, that's
part of
cool.
it. Uh,
Yeah.
remember a while ago I had a dream, and I the only thing I remember was that my that a large dog was stepping on my balls.
Ouch.
Um,
See? And imagine that was just a
and
life
not
you lived.
like
That's just out in the multiverse.
like in the way like I was like sitting on the ground and like as if someone was holding food up behind me and the dog was like trying to get to the food and like
Oh yeah.
trampled over me and I distinctly remember
You
um
stepped on your balls.
stepping on my balls. Yeah, that was part of the dream. I don't remember anything else about the dream, but I guess maybe
I get
that could be a past life.
that. Well, that's happened to
Um
me in real life.
Yeah,
Dogs
that's
stepping on
definitely.
my balls.
Yeah, I had a Saint Bernard. I that's
Yeah.
definitely happened. So
Um,
it's a reasonable thing that could have happened in a past life. Yeah,
and so dream theory is not necessarily like what comes after. Well, it goes along with what comes after death. It can go along with reincarnation, but it also feeds into the multiverse theory. That's not what we're here to talk about, even though that does have precedent in quantum physics and everything. But so then beyond that, let's get into one of the biggest ones that a lot of people believe, and it's out there, and it's in many
yeah,
forms, in many different, basically every, especially Abrahamic religions,
yeah,
um, heaven and hell, and then Catholic, you got limbo, purgatory, all this other stuff.
yeah.
Let's just start with heaven and hell. Which one you want to do first? I'm gonna speculate on.
I mean, I think they kind of go hand in hand. I mean, we can talk individually about different ideas of each of them, which is fun.
Well,
That's fun to talk
yeah,
about,
they do go
but
hand in
they
hand
go hand
because
in hand.
basically, let's just say if you're a Christian, if you believe in God,
Oh,
you believe Jesus died for your sins, all that stuff. This is just the basics, by the way, but you'll go to heaven. If you don't,
yeah.
you'll go to hell. And, Dante's Inferno explained that there's the nine or seven, nine circles of hell. Fuck.
Mm,
It's either seven or nine.
hold
Uh,
on, hold on, hold on.
no, that's the seven deadly sins. Nine, isn't it?
It's nine. I think it's nine.
Like
Hold
there's a
on.
frozen lake. That's where Satan is. And then There's the one where people are eating
Where's
each other, or
where's
not people,
the
but like hell's a mouth, and then like the one where they're just kind of chilling. It's, it's not
uh
purgatory, but I know there's one where like philosophers and stuff that obviously didn't have a chance of leaving Christ.
that's how
Um,
Dante, I think it's nine. It doesn't have a appendix there. I think it's nine. So
like people that didn't have the chance of believing that died before Christ, they either go to
Dante's
purgatory or they go to
they go to
um
purgatory.
yeah, the
Um,
purgatory. Yeah.
with one exception. Dante describes in Paradiso um a
I never got there.
Roman like general or soldier, I don't remember their name, um, who is guarding at the gates of uh purgatory.
Ooh, Pontius Pilate? No, he's kind of
No,
bad actually. He would have it really bad.
no, not Pontius Pilate.
Chris Baptist.
But so the idea in what Dante presents is that if you were limbo is a place for if you were pre-Christian, someone who is pre-Christian, but Dante imagines would have been Christian if they were born after Christ.
Yeah, and also,
That
yeah, I want to specify we are not neither claiming, or no one's ever really will ever claim. Well, people do, but Dante's Inferno is not like what would be found in the Bible,
no, Dante's
like the descriptions of
version
heaven and hell.
of the afterlife
It's Dante's version.
is and never has been considered canon in the Catholic
No,
Church. He kind
yeah,
of got away with it as if like as in like he it was published and the Catholic Church was kind of like, well, you're not directly contradicting us, so we'll allow it.
yeah.
And it became really
Uh,
popular.
so let's talk about
But no, but purgatory though is so limbo is for the people that Dante considered would have been Christian. So someone like um Aristotle, who was I
yeah
might be confusing Aristotle with
philosophers.
I might be confusing Aristotle with Plato, but I think it's Aristotle, who
I know
the
Donnie. What's her
medieval
name is
Christians didn't
Aristotle.
really like some of those Greek philosophers because they thought they were a little bit they said some things that weren't very Christian, but St. Thomas
Ignorant.
Aquinas kind of reinterpret it in a way that made it okay. So like someone like that where like Dante would be like, oh, this person, if they were born now, would totally be a Christian. So they can't
Yeah,
technically be in purgatory or heaven, but they don't really deserve to go to hell, so they're in limbo. Um,
limbo. Yeah, and then
and then
purgatory.
purgatory is the idea being that you were not good enough to go to heaven,
But you still have a
but you
chance.
still have a chance. Yeah. So you go
Yeah,
to
basically is that.
purgatory and it the way he describes
So
it
it's
is
basically
there.
for people that have been good, or maybe they are good, but they, never believe Jesus died for sins. They don't believe in God, all that,
Oh no, you'd go to
right?
hell for that. Yeah.
Oh, you would automate. Okay.
In Dante's
Yeah,
Catholic
yeah. And
version of
Dante's, yeah.
it, if you're born after Christ and you
You
don't
don't
believe in
believe in
Christ,
God. You go
you
to
go to
hell.
hell.
Now,
That's
there's different levels, though. There's worse levels for sure.
different versions of Christianity have
uh,
different opinions on
if
that.
you were a
That
good person that
um
didn't believe, and according to Dante, you would be in like level 1 or 2, where it's like
yeah.
I forgot what it constituted, but it's the least of the torture, and there's different forms. But
Yeah. So
the
there
straight
is
the basics idea of hell, though, outside of Dante's Inferno,
yeah.
fire and brimstone, sulfur, you know, a lot of people believe it's just a lake of fire. You're just burning forever, or you're getting tortured forever, and otherwise
So
lost.
some
I've heard people
people
say you live the worst day of your life over and over again, or you see people die. But either way, let's
mhm,
talk about that option. Okay,
yeah.
after you die, if you weren't a Christian, and let's just say for the thought experiment here, God is real, It's all real. And you weren't a Christian, you're going to hell. That sucks for
Mhm.
you. You could be an otherwise amazing person. You could have done amazing things for the world, but God has sent you down to hell, and Satan is laughing, and you're there and forever, eternity, and that's
Yeah.
hard to comprehend what eternity means. I rather not exist than spend an eternity, almost an eternity anywhere. That's why I think reincarnation would be great because at least you're getting different experiences forever.
Yeah.
And then, but hell, you're getting tortured by some kind of
Well,
means and
there's different
otherwise.
ideas of
There's
it
different
too.
ideas.
Um, I know some
Well,
people,
Dante,
some Christians will hold, and I think this is a minority, um, will hold that hell doesn't exist. That hell,
that's definitely a minority
that there's
because the whole
just
fear of God
that
thing
there. Well, the idea
is
is that there's just an afterlife, and that hell is an invention by organized religion to control people. So, and it's definitely a
yeah,
minority.
yeah,
Mormons
there's something like that, but they're not
Mormons
part of
don't
organized.
exactly believe in a traditional hell. Um,
Oh yeah,
they will hold, so they do have a sort of hell. They call it outer darkness, which is just super metal, very out of character for Mormons to have a name of something that's so cool.
outer darkness.
Yeah. um and the idea of that is that to get there, you have to believe and actually know the truth about God and then still betray God.
Right, and
So
that's an interesting.
so so
That's like saying you believed it, but you just said "fuck you, God."
yeah, exactly. And so from their perspective, it's like if you legitimately just don't believe, you don't go to hell just for not believing.
Because that's not
What they generally believe is that
right.
when you die, if you were a non-believer, you get an opportunity in the afterlife to learn about the truth.
And that's
Uh,
actually
um,
interestingly enough,
and
that's what
that
I've been told in the past that you
yeah,
get one more chance after you die to make your mind.
yeah.
Um,
Well, because I think a lot of that stems from Mormons. A lot of Christians believe this. I think it's more common in Protestants, this Protestant side of stuff, that they describe God as a father, and a father wants the best for his children. So
you have the
he's not
Father, the Son, and the
so
Holy Ghost.
yeah, so he's not gonna just damn you to hell because you didn't know.
Well, and
Um,
Jesus died for our sins, so we wouldn't just go to hell for
yeah,
committing any kind of sin,
yeah.
no matter how
Um,
big or small it is, whether it's just you jerked off one time,
yeah. So
or you murdered
Mormons
15 people.
kind of will say that when you die, if you were not Mormon, you would go to, they call it spirit prison. Not as harsh as it sounds,
Right.
but the idea is
It's
that
like,
that's where you go
and
to
then
as a spirit to learn the
God will
truth,
bail you out if
and
you
then God can bail you out.
so
And
yeah.
theoretically, if you are there and still deny it, then
then
it's,
then you go to
you
hell, right?
then you go
Or
to outer darkness because
outer darkness.
it's
Okay. Yeah.
undeniable truth that you're experiencing, and then if you're still going against it,
And you're
that's
just
but they
out of spite. You're
yeah.
just yeah.
But
But why
Mormon
would anyone make that choice?
yeah, but Mormons
Fair enough.
also believe that if you're in heaven, there's like three different layers of heaven, and each
Yeah.
one is better than the last. And and if you're one of those people who wasn't a good Mormon, who just had to learn it in the afterlife, you go to the lowest layer of heaven. You still get to go to heaven, but you don't get to be as
Just
good
you get
in
to
the
go to the
really
apartment
cool
complex.
heaven. Yeah, you
You get
don't
to
get
go,
to
yeah, the
be in the
heavens,
really cool heaven unless you
yeah,
were
not
Mormon
the
in
one where
life.
you're,
Like
yeah, not the one where you're hanging out with,
so so they
uh,
take this approach of like you get a second chance, but we're still
you
better
don't
than
get to go
you.
to the heaven with all the cocaine, okay? You don't,
Yeah.
you go to the one with the you know, apartment complex with a nice enough pool, but there's a band-aid in it, you know.
Yeah.
But it's
But
still a pool.
there's another kind of aspect to that I don't think this is like an official teaching in the Mormon. For our listeners, I grew up in the Mormon church, so this is why I know this
If you've
stuff.
listened for a
Um,
while, you would have put that together.
this is I don't think this is an official teaching in the Mormon church, but I've heard some people say this in the Mormon church. I also don't think this is unique to Mormonism. Um, is this idea that hell is not a physical place in the afterlife that you go to. That it's the way I
Mm,
heard it described is that so it's this is an interpretation of the Bible where it describes hell as like a lake of fire and brimstone.
yeah.
And they focus on the wording like a lake of fire or brimstone. So they say
Right.
hell is a it's
Metaphor?
it's a it's a metaphor for what it feels like. So it's the idea is you're in the afterlife and all you can experience all of the guilt for all the bad things you ever did all at
Yeah.
once.
Like like those moments you wake up 3 in the morning, you remember that cringe thing you did, you
Yeah.
know,
But all of those cringe
all at
things you
once.
ever did all at once and it
Yeah.
sucks. So it's like
Yeah.
the idea is that hell
Mental torment.
is like this torment of the worst guilt you could possibly
Psychological.
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another kind of idea of
Let's
hell.
cut it down to brass tacks here. Just the most basic ideas. Um, just to simplify this a bit here. Okay, let's say you die, you never believed, go to hell.
Yeah.
And it could be any of those hells, but it's just an eternity of torture,
It's the South Park
just
hell.
some form of torture. Whether it's you're burning alive forever or you're getting,
I still love
poked
the
by, the
have you
classic
seen the
devil
South
cartoon
Park
with the try,
episode that
like the yeah, the South Park
yeah,
Satan, like he's there, whatever it is,
I love
that's
that
your
episode of South
eternity.
Park where it's the introduction where they're welcoming everyone to hell. They're like, yeah, there's barbecues on Thursday nights and someone raises their hand like, wait a second. I was a Baptist priest my whole life. Oh, well, yeah, it was actually the Mormons who got it right. And everyone goes, ah.
That's pretty good. Oh, so, but okay, but let's say that you die, you never believed, and you're in some kind of eternal torture, and eternity still something we can't comprehend forever.
Yeah.
Um,
Eternity
yeah,
is a
that would suck.
insane concept.
Uh, I'd rather just not exist, right? Or I'd rather just be reincarnated. I'd rather be incarnated into a snail. At least I could
Yeah.
have a cool
I would
flavor
rather
as a snail.
reincarnation over the
Someone pours salt
possibility of
on me,
hell. Yeah.
someone salts me or something, or a bird eats me, and then I become a freaking
It's not just
rhinoceros.
see,
I
it's
don't know.
just not just the idea of torture, it's the idea of eternal torture.
Eternal torture,
I
and it's
I I
always
read
bad.
something
You don't get used
recently.
to it. You can't get used to it.
I
Whether
read
they
something
mind wipe
recently
you or
that was
whatever, you
like
can't get used to it.
I read something
Because if you
recently
get
that
used to
kind of
it,
like because infinity is a really difficult concept to grasp for humans, just the way our
yeah.
brain works. And I saw someone recently, they explained it this way. They said, because someone posted online, it was a Word document that was just a whole page of all zeros, no spaces. And their joke was this is the number pi, but in numerical order, and just what I can fit onto this page.
I see.
But then someone pointed out they were like, technically, if infinity works, if pi works the way we think it does, and infinity works the way we think it does, then a whole Word document of all zeros, however many characters of that exact sequence of zeros not only does occur in the sequence of pi, but it occurs an infinite number of times.
Hmm.
Which
But infinity goes. both
is
direction. It goes
is
all
crazy.
directions.
Yeah, it's just
Um.
it is insane.
So yeah, eternity torture. Yeah, that would obviously be bad. No one wants that. But let's go the other way. There's many different depictions of heaven, but one of the most common ones. It's vague, but it's just like you're in eternal paradise, or eternal paradise, and you just whether it's just you have bliss or you get to do anything and everything and meet people and what you get to see your loved ones again or you get just whatever your ultimate dream is, you have that. As long as well, you would be in
Hmm.
hell if you want to hurt other people, right? But like whatever your ultimate dream is, you could have that times a million times infinity. Um, there's that. Here's the problem with that, though. Here's the kind of bad side to even heaven. It's still eternity. So would
Yeah.
you get bored? Like, there's only so many things you can do for eternity.
I feel like a religious
How long
person's
could you play New Vegas? Like, that's all I'm asking.
I feel like a religious person's response to that would be that you just wouldn't. You just wouldn't
You
get
wouldn't
bored
get bored. Okay. How
because
wouldn't you get
it's
bored?
heaven, so God can just
Well, let's say you
like
just spend
make
a
you
few
not
thousand.
bored.
Let's say you get to heaven, and before you even do anything, you just experience a few millennia of just bliss, just
Hmm.
like an orgasm of bliss, or maybe it is like an orgasm. I don't know, but either way, you experience that.
That's Jackson's
For
version of heaven, just
you, you
orgasms.
experience that for eons, but you don't. You get to the point where you don't realize it's been eons, and then you do something else. So yeah, in theory, if your conscious still works the same way, where you still have the potential to get bored, it would take millions, perhaps
Yeah,
maybe even hundreds of millions of years before you run out of things to do, before you get truly bored.
yeah. No,
Well,
well, I mean, again,
what if,
kind of
well, I
the
have a
religious
question though.
person's response would
Well, they
be,
would be like, oh, you just won it, but that's a stupid response, okay?
but that is in theory, if we're
That is
talking
the
about like
response.
heaven in the traditional way,
Let's
the idea would
say,
be that how many times you play New Vegas? A religious person's response would say, if you're in heaven, you would never get bored of New Vegas.
yeah,
It would
I mean,
always,
that
every
would be pretty
time.
rad. I mean,
They would say every
just
time
sitting on a
if you're,
couch in the clouds.
they would say every,
Like,
if you're in heaven, every time you play New Vegas would be like your first time playing New
and
Vegas.
that's what I want to get to. Let's say you get mind wiped. God hits you across the head or whatever. You get your memory wiped every time. So yeah, you could watch Breaking Bad like it was the first time over and over. You could play New Vegas like it was the first time over
Yeah.
and over. With anything.
Well, I
You
guess
could,
in theory, I guess the idea would be
if that holds
the
true,
optimal like sort of
whatever it is.
pleasure from it. So
But if
like,
there's biblically accurate angels,
yeah. Well, it's like,
that's
what
gonna be a
I'm
little
saying
tricky.
is like
But
maybe for example, your first time playing New Vegas was not your favorite time playing New Vegas. Maybe your
true.
third time playing it was
Whatever, yeah.
the peak
Whatever
fun
your
because now you know the
the
exploits.
systems, yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's your
whatever
peak fun. So for and when you're in heaven, every time you play
whatever
New Vegas is like your third time playing New Vegas.
whatever yeah, is the
Like,
ultimate version of it. Um then yeah, if that all holds true, then yeah, heaven is one of the best options for an afterlife. Because you get to exist and you get to party and have fun forever.
yeah,
Um, you know, so yeah, that would be pretty great. You and yeah, the whole argument, oh, you just want to get bored, you get your memory wiped or whatever, or you just wanted, um, okay, let's say that holds true. But even if you could get bored, you would eventually not be bored. We all get bored at some point, and then we find something to do, or whatever. So so yeah, heaven would be amazing. Obviously, I mean that's pretty straightforward. Um, but I would say reincarnation and heaven are really close for me because I think
Yeah.
reincarnation would be interesting, especially if you are aware, like if you have some kind of like your continuance of consciousness, like you remember your last life, your past
Right.
life,
Yeah.
or your playthrough. Um, but even if it's just like a restart and you just have these vague background memories of it, that would be all right. But yeah, heaven would obviously be one of the best. So yeah,
There's
okay,
yeah.
that's
There's
out of the way.
there's other types of ideas of sort of afterlife other than heaven and hell, right?
Well, we talked about reincarnation, we talked about non-existence, we talked about loop, we talked about heaven, and now let's get into another. Let's get into another one. I mentioned it, the Matrix simulation theory.
Oh yeah.
You are just in a simulation. You don't have control over your reality. So when you die, either who whatever simulation you're in just reboots you, or you get unplugged and you're just a game. You're not even real, which is worse
This
than most of our options.
yeah.
Or it's a simulate, or you are part of that consciousness. You are just the
Yeah.
simulation.
That's
You're everybody.
see that now we're getting into
You're one with you are everybody. We are simultaneously all living the same lives
when
without
we're
realizing
getting
it.
when we're getting into that idea, we're getting into like not just like metaphysics, but we're getting into like epistemology and stuff like that. Like, what if this is a simulation?
Yeah.
Like, and that's a
Well,
whole
yeah.
can of worms.
That is a
Um,
can. Yeah,
it's
definitely.
the brain in the jar story, which I'm not gonna go over because you're familiar with that.
Definitely. Descartes.
For our listeners,
Even though he
go
didn't say that, but that was
yeah.
his
For our
idea.
listeners, go read Brain of the Jar story. It's pretty good. Um,
Yeah. How would we know? I mean,
they
all
it's
we know is I think, therefore I am.
there,
Except,
there so there's
but
a problem. There's a problem in epistemology, and it is the I think therefore I am. That it's a problem because if you I think the whole idea of I think therefore I am comes from Descartes, who uh he was trying his entire point was to try to prove the existence of God philosophically, logically.
right.
So his idea was he goes, okay, I'm going to strip back all of my beliefs. Just pretend I have
Yeah.
no beliefs at all about the world and start logically. What is the first thing logically that I can actually say that is true? And that's where he comes with I think therefore I am. He goes, I am a thinking
Think.
being, therefore I can deduce that
You're a rational being.
I I do exist because I am thinking right now. I exist in some way, shape, or form. And then he goes on to add
Questioning
on
it in the first
to
place.
build off of
Yeah.
that. And he eventually does, in his own way, try to prove that God exists. There's a theory that he never actually believed any of that shit. That he never truly got past.
Right.
I think, therefore,
This
I
thought
am.
experiment.
So where it comes from? So the
Just doing what we're doing.
and it's this problem of can we actually prove that
I mean, it
this
goes
is
back to the
real?
beginning of this whole episode. I
Yeah,
mean, we
like
don't know until we
can we?
finally die, until somebody pulls the plug, right? I mean, or until we die, or
Yeah,
until,
like
I mean,
and the solution that epistemologists have come up
whatever
with
it is.
is basically we have to just lower our standards for what we can consider knowledge from apps because that's another thing with Descartes is he was an absolutist in his
Yeah.
way. So to truly know something, you have to have absolute proof.
Mm-hmm.
So an epistemology, the kind of the solution is to we got to lower the bar a little bit. Just say, okay, absolute proof is impossible. So what is the
Yeah. For
next
anything,
best thing?
some
Um, Yeah.
Yeah, like gravity. It's the law of gravity.
Yeah.
Sir Isaac Newton, the apple fell on his head. Everyone knows about it. But that one time you drop something and it goes up or just stays or whatever, then gravity, everything is thrown up, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you cannot absolutely with certainty say that gravity is always gonna work
Yeah.
how it's supposed to. But, physicists
But
all
also,
believe that it's a
yeah.
fundamental force of the universe, gravity,
Yeah.
electromagnetism,
Because it's
radiation,
like, and there's tons of
but
different theories when you lower the
yeah,
bar of knowledge from absolute to a little bit, just a little bit lower. Um, there's all sorts of different theories on what counts as knowledge and what doesn't. Um, but when it comes to like that whole absolute knowledge, how do we know that I'm not being deceived by a demon? How do I know that I'm not in the Matrix? How
it
do you know I'm
just
not? How do I
keeps
know I'm not a brain
going.
in the
It
jar?
just
Um,
opens a
and
whole jar of worms.
my
And you know
my
what?
f- my favorite is I think Kant said this, so I'm gonna say it was Kant.
Yeah.
um,
Uh,
had this idea of, well, this is the reality I'm experiencing. So until I have reason to think that it's a different reality, I'm just going to the most logical or most not logical, the most rational thing to do is to act as if this is true.
yeah, and that's all
So
we
I mean
really
that I think
can.
that's where it ties into
That's
like
all we really can
the
do.
idea of the afterlife and what if this is the
Yeah.
Matrix and the
And
afterlife
these
is
kind
me
of
waking up
discussions,
from the Matrix? It's like, well, I will
yeah, and then
find
you're
that
like Keanu
out.
Reeves in the pod,
Yeah, well,
you know.
it's the idea is that I will the way
Right.
we cope with that idea is that I will find out if that is the case when I
And I'm
get
just
there.
gonna, yeah,
But
yeah.
until then,
Um,
what am I gonna do about it?
no, you're not gonna do anything
And that's
unless
almost a
you go to
stoicist
extremes.
like way of thinking about it. Like, what am I gonna do
Well,
about it?
and
It's
as I've gotten older, even without thinking about it, even before I took philosophy courses and I got into that, I I I I would at least like to call myself a stoicist.
I like stoicism. I think there's some
Yeah,
problems with it, but they're I think overcome. I think
you
they're
can pick
problems you can
apart
overcome.
anything. I mean,
I
but
think the main
the
problem with stoic
primary. Well,
uh,
what do you think the main problem is?
the main problem with stoicism is that it leaves very little room for emotional complexity.
Yeah,
But I think
yeah,
I've not
that
spent a lot of
that's a
time on
given.
it. I think that is
But the
a
idea,
problem that can be overcome.
right?
So
But
I
the
yeah
basics of stoicism is that you can only control how you react to things, and you can only control yourself. You can't control any external force.
yeah
So whatever happens to you or anyone else, but especially whatever happens to you, you just kind of basically you essentially just roll with the punches. You don't cry over spilled milk. You control how you react to things. You remain stoic and you just continue on with life. And it does help with a lot,
yeah
because it can help with confidence as well, but it also just helps you just deal with things that like, oh man, if you get in a car wreck, well, it's like there was all kinds of circumstances that would have led to this. The only thing I can control now, and it's kind of a reactionary thing, but the only thing that I can control now is how I perceive it, how I react to this,
yeah.
and what I do going forward. Uh, and
It's I think
Stoics
stoicism
don't worry about
shouldn't
that
be a
because
way
it's
to
nothing you can control.
completely live your life, but there's definitely wisdom to be found in it. Like
Definitely wisdom there,
the idea
and a
that
lot of
like
It's of Roman wisdom.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and
Marcus Aurelius,
yeah,
um, who well,
actually, I think I have a Marcus Aurelius
I
quote
mean,
here.
yeah, I was about to say, speaking of Marcus
Um,
Aurelius, I'm kind of glad we went down this idea because he talked about death a lot in
yeah, so here's a
meditations.
quote. This is from someone on Reddit, so hopefully this is a true quote. Uh, he has a good amount of votes, so let's just, live a good life. If there are gods and they are just, then they will not care how devout you have been, but will welcome you based on the virtues you have lived by. If there are gods but unjust, then you should not want to worship them.
Yeah.
If there are no gods, then you will be gone, but you will have lived a noble life that will live on in the memories of your loved ones. And that's what we were talking about earlier.
Hmm.
Um, and so as a Stoic, I mean, you don't know that, but you can only control how you can only control yourself.
Yeah.
You cannot
I think the
control
way
any
the way I
external.
apply it to myself is just trying to think of it as, does this does reacting poorly to a situation actually make it better?
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah. Um,
Again,
so
I think there's some emotional complexities in our brain and how we work as
well,
people that
you
stoicism
seem
doesn't
to
account
block
for.
yourself out from a lot and like
Yeah,
really shut yourself in.
that's some Kiadi
And
Mundi shit, and Kiadi
yeah,
Mundi is the worst member of the Jedi Council.
yeah, you
Just total
become
piece of
so
shit.
stoic to the point where you don't care for anyone. You really just care for yourself and how you
Yeah,
interact with it and react.
but
Um,
I have a
but
question for you though,
yeah,
and this is, I think I'm throwing this as now because it's related to Marcus Aurelius. Um, so Marcus Aurelius, from what I this is off the top of my head memory, so don't quote me on this as like a source. But when he talks about death, he has this idea that death is a natural part of life. Um, as in not like oh, just deal with it.
everything must
It's
come to an end.
no, well, not
Or
exactly, not exactly in the sense of just like, oh, it's gonna happen, so just deal with it, but more like it's part of the circle of life. It is a thing that
circle
happens
of
to us
life.
because
Yeah.
we are mortal beings. So he
Yeah.
says, since we are mortal beings, not only should we accept death, but we should see death as a duty. That death is
Right.
it
Yeah.
is our responsibility as mortal beings to eventually die. He is not saying that like, oh, you should welcome death with open arms, but he's saying, but don't be afraid of it because it's, we are doing our part.
I mean, I can't let me just
So
be honest. I can't 100% say that I wouldn't fear death, especially when
yeah.
it's knocking on my door. You know what I
Well,
mean? And
I
something happens.
well,
But
this is
at the same time, I accept it
yeah.
and I, you know, can just rationalize that it happens to everybody. Like I've always said, we all have the same destination, no matter how rich or poor you are, or whatever you do in life.
Yeah.
Is for the foreseeable future, we all die.
Well, that's another
Um,
thing that Marcus Aurelius talks about is how
right.
um
So
uh
I accept it.
Alexander the Great's carriage driver is buried in the same place as Alexander the Great. Uh,
Right.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
I
But
had that, but I was thinking about this, what Marcus Aurelius said, and I came up with this question I wanted to pose to you. If you, considering like his take on it of death is not just inevitable, but it is a duty, as a mortal being. Say in a this is a thought experiment. If you were presented with the option for immortality, but just you, not everyone, would you take it? And
sorry, my dog's barking. What were you saying?
I was saying, so if you were presented in this thought experiment, you were presented with the option to accept immortality, but just you, would you take it? And if so, or
No.
if not, why?
I want you to answer this question as well. But
Yeah,
my answer
yeah,
would be no. If I'm the only one that's immortal, and all this talk we've had about the afterlife, that wouldn't apply because I would never
no,
die. So
you
I
never
would
get to find
actually
out.
I would never get to find out. And I would probably, more than likely, get a internally worse experience than pretty much anyone else that does die
Yeah.
and either goes to hell, heaven, reincarnated, goes through the loop, or there's nothing. I would be alive for infinity in the
Yeah.
void after the heat death of the universe, after all the stars go supernova, until we get to a new Big Bang and it goes
Well,
again. I
I'm
forever,
I'm talking
forever.
I'm talking a little bit more like not what would happen to you if you were immortal. I'm talking more like the concept of immortality. Do you think um do you think it would be rephrase the question. Do you think it would be acceptable to for you to take immortal accept it? That's I guess that's more the question. Is not
Okay,
less of a would you deny immortality because immortality would suck, but more like would it be acceptable for you to say yes to immortality? Because someone like Marcus Aurelius would say no because death is a duty. We are mortal beings, so we must eventually die.
um, so without thinking of the consequences, essentially, with
Yeah, without thinking of the consequences of what would happen in a million years to you, would accepting the gift of
most
immortality
people,
be
most people,
okay?
most people, not excluding myself, think short term. What they're doing next weekend, what they're doing this
Hmm.
weekend, what they're doing tonight, what they're doing tomorrow, um, are what they're doing in the next few years. But in the scale universe, that is nothing. Or
Oh
what
yeah,
they're doing in 20 years, what they're doing by the time they retire. In the scale of the universe, that is nothing. Um, so, with that perspective,
right.
yes, if I could be immortal and get to see all the cool things that happen, or terrible things that happen, but like at least get to play any video games, or whatever. But see all the cool things that happen. It would be incredibly hard to deny that. But I also can't help but think about all the long term stuff because, as I just discussed. So no.
Right.
So it's
I
not really a
yeah.
moral objection. It would be cool, but it would only be cool for so long. So
See see
it's still a
I
no, but not moral. Not a
I
moral.
have I have a moral objection
Not
to it.
okay. What's your moral objection? Because everyone else you love dies.
No, no.
Okay, because what?
It's the action of being immortal in the first place, not the consequences of it.
Why me?
So
Okay, explain.
I in general am lean towards a Kantian view of ethics. Um, and one of a core idea of Kant's ethics is one of the thought experiments is that if, if something is wrong, if by a rule of thumb, if everyone did this, would that be bad?
Oh, if everyone did it, yeah.
Yeah. Now, of course, this idea in Kant is not perfect. And that's a can of worms I'm not going to open. But but for me, if I were to become immortal, but if I were to pose that as if by rule of thumb everyone was able to become immortal, would I think that would be okay? And I don't think that would be
Yeah, if
okay.
Hitler was immortal, or
Yeah,
Jeffrey Dahmer,
yeah, or
you don't want to hang around with those guys.
yeah, or Henry Kissinger.
Right.
Yeah, like no, I would not be okay with that. And if I'm not okay with everyone being immortal,
Then why would you be okay with
why would I be okay with me being immortal? What makes me better than everyone else and more
what makes
deserving
you
of
better than
being
everyone else?
immortal?
And also, to quote from The
You
Dark
know?
Knight, from Harvey Dent from The Dark Knight, You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
So, and if you're immortal, you might end up doing horrible things, you might
Yeah.
do great things,
It's true.
but immortal implies eternity, and that leaves room for an infinite amount of possibilities of what
Yeah,
you would
that's
do.
true too. Yeah. So like
So, yeah,
I think the
who's to
consequences
say I deserve
are
that?
bad,
But
but
that's why,
also,
like,
but yeah, I have a
at least the
moral
afterlife,
objection to it.
like with heaven and hell, and let's create our own thing. Let's say you just go to heaven based off if you are a objectively morally good person. You put positive energy in the world. You help your fellow man. You do good things, or at least you don't do bad things. And I'm not gonna.
Right.
Let's not get into what's good and what's bad and whatever.
Yeah, that's
Let's just start. That's a whole other can of
yeah,
worms. But let's
that's
just
we're
start
not gonna
there.
get. Yeah.
Let's say our version of heaven hell. You just go to heaven just for being a good, decent person, just living an honest life. You go to hell if you're a serial killer or if you're a terrible person, you're a pedophile, whatever. If it's that case, then immortality, it would be fair, right? Because but then that opens a can of worms. Like, who's the judge? What's good and bad? But like, let's say that's the version of heaven hell, then you could accept that because then, uh, but also immortality, you don't die, so you don't get that. So with
Yeah.
immortality, you never get that final curtain call. Like,
Yeah.
you have opportunity to do good or bad things when you're immortal because when you die, you can't do anything unless, and there's one more thing we haven't talked about,
Hmm.
we should just touch on. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Ghost. Let's say you become a ghost and you can,
Mm.
and I think this one could actually be decently all right. It could be
It
fun, at
depends.
least
It
for a
depends
while.
on your idea
What kind,
of how it would
or
happen
like,
and all that.
or
Yeah.
like what
Yeah.
kind of ghost you are, or like,
Yeah.
because if you're the kind of ghost that just like fucks with people, spooks them, or even just like they put their keys somewhere and then you put them somewhere else, or that'd be fun for a while. And then I'm
Yeah.
gonna just being a dick of a ghost, or you could be a scary one. You can experiment. You could play around with it. Like, what kind of ghost am I gonna be uh today with this new person or whatever? Am I gonna be like the ring crawl out of the TV? Maybe. Let's give that a try. I think a ghost could be fun, but it also could be terribly boring because let's say
Yeah.
you're a ghost that's haunting a place, but no one's there to
Yeah.
fuck with. You're just like haunting an empty graveyard, or you're haunting an abandoned house, or actually you're haunting the plot of land that a haunted mansion was on, but it got demolished, and you're just there hanging
Yeah.
around.
It's just hanging out, empty
Or you're
lot.
you're the kind of ghost that
You're the
possesses a
ghost. You're
doll
the
or
ghost of
whatever.
the empty lot. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Or you're a ghost that possesses a doll or something, and then you're a stupid doll.
Yeah.
So the whole ghost idea has fun opportunities, but there's also, it could be very
It feels
lame
like kind
and
of a
weird.
lottery of like whether or
Yeah,
not
you're rolling the
you're gonna be
dice.
you're gonna get to be a cool ghost or
It's like,
like
okay,
a boring
if I
ghost or
just
a
die right now, at least I could fuck with the next tenants and whatever
yeah.
of this apartment.
Yeah.
But if I just died out in a field somewhere, or like, or, and also you have to think, how does being a ghost work? Do you just
Yeah.
haunt the residents of where you died, or do you get to roam the world
It depends
as a
on the
spirit?
ghost, I guess.
It depends on the type, and like it.
Yeah.
There's too many like ifs and ands and
Like well
constituencies of what a ghost,
what if it's like it depends on where you died and all that, and what if you
or it
got killed
depends
at
on like,
what if you got killed at work?
oh God,
And now you're just in your
haunting the
office,
bacon
like as a
store.
ghost, you're in your office clothes and you're just
Yep.
at work now. You're just haunting your work. That would suck.
I mean, if I died in a brewery or something, that'd be pretty sick.
Yeah, there's that too.
But
What if you
ghost, yeah.
died? What if you died at J-Bo's? and you can just like
That'd be
hang
cool
out
for
at
a while.
JMO's.
Yeah.
Be cool for a while. It would get old eventually, but
Also, like, are you like Slimer where you can eat hot dogs and stuff? Are you like
that
the
was
ring
my
where are you like the ring girl where you're just a curse and like
yeah,
this whole process has to be initiated for you even to like enter the world? Like, oh, someone's got to watch your tape, and then you crawl out of the well and you crawl out of
right.
TV, and then you kill the guy, then you go back in the well, and then you're just and
Then you're
then
just hanging out in the well.
like what kind of ghost you are. So the
Yeah.
whole
I
ghost
mean
thing has
there's that thing too.
there's
Like
too many.
what if you died and you ended up looking like Slimer?
So like John Belushi.
Like you're not even like you're like
You know,
just like
Slimer is based off of John Belushi.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Slimer
Uh,
is in the new Ghostbusters.
oh, since we're on Ghost, what's your
Yeah.
brief review of it? Just real quick. We haven't got to talk
Is
about it.
okay.
I
It's
heard it's
like
fine by all accounts.
it's like I don't want to spoil stuff exactly. It's like what Ghostbusters 2 was to the first Ghostbusters. This is
Mm.
that to Ghostbusters Afterlife.
So
Ghostbusters Afterlife was pretty good. This is just it's okay.
there's only one like objectively great Ghostbusters, and it's the first one.
It's the first one. I thought Afterlife was pretty good too.
No, Afterlife is good,
That's a pretty good
but
movie.
it's only good because of the
Um
first one.
this one it is let's see the good things. They actually there's a few scenes where they actually put some effort into making spooky stuff happen.
That's cool.
There's
And I know
some
like the Ice King or like whoever the bad guy is, the ghost.
the bad guy is a negative. The bad guy was
Oh,
honestly barely there. Like
mm, that's disappointing.
it, not like the worst thing ever, but like just it for most of the movie. It's just this threat they talk about,
Interesting
and then at the
that
end of the
we get.
movie they show up, and then Kumail Nanjiani does some firebending.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah.
Um,
Is it cringe or not?
by that point in the movie, it's not cringe because you're kind of like, okay, whatever.
Accepted it.
Um, I
Um,
mean, I'm don't get me wrong, I like Kumail Nanjiani. That's the thing. Is this movie? It's at its best. It has some scenes that are like legitimately well done.
I
Like the
heard Dan
opening,
Aykroyd has a lot of fun in it.
Dan
I heard he
Aykroyd
cuts it.
is a major character in it, and that was a good thing for the movie because he is
I heard
fun.
Bill Murray is just bored.
He's in one scene. He's in one scene in the movie. He shows up with sunglasses on and goes, "Hey, it's me, Bill Murray." He doesn't literally say that, but that's the vibe he gives off.
Right.
And he doesn't really
So he's
say anything
boring.
else, and he's just there because Dan Aykroyd was
I
no,
think
but
they
Dan
all have an
Aykroyd,
obligation to be in every Ghostbusters movie.
yeah, Dan Aykroyd was fun though. He's a main character. He's like a major character in it, so that's cool. Um, they have some scenes. The opening scene is really good. They have some
Was there any
scenes where they
Crystal Vodka
no,
product placement?
no,
No.
but Dan Aykroyd definitely gives off weird conspiracy theory guy vibes, which is good. Uh, like the opening scene is really cool. Takes place in like the early 1900s in New York. It's like a flashback. They have some cool
That's cool.
imagery. There's some cool ghosts that are actually kind of freaky looking. Um, there's a I don't even remember the comedian's name. There's a British comedian, stand-up comedian who's in it, and he's funny. Um,
That's cool.
there's a little side plot
Yeah.
with Finn Wolfhard and Slimer.
I heard that's a weak side plot, but
Uh, it's a weak side plot in the sense of there's not much to it, but I kind of liked it. It's kind of they don't
edges.
they don't do anything like offensive with it. It's just like Slimer's in the firehouse, and there's a few scenes throughout the movie where Finn Wolfhard is kind of just trying to catch him because Finn Wolfhard doesn't really
Yeah,
have much of a part in the movie. He's kind of just there.
that's disappointing.
Um,
Isn't it a fun coincidence that
it's just an okay movie.
ghosts
It's
we get Ghostbusters Frozen Empire,
mhm.
which has Empire in the title and Ice person. And then we get Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire, which also has Empire tile and
Yeah.
also has an ice related monster.
Yeah.
It's interesting. By the way, Godzilla X Kong, I told you, I mean, we'll have to do a morning all of these where we go in more detail, but and I'm gonna keep this brief, but it was rad. Like all the monster fights were amazing, like top tier. It's like the Showa era monster fights craziness times a million, modern budget and CGI. It's crazy. Godzilla's just shredding monsters apart. Kong's like brawling and like yeah, the fights and like the monster stuff is
Yeah.
incredible.
Fuck yeah.
Plot
James
elements, the
James Acaster. I don't remember how you pronounce that.
Caster.
Um he's a British comedian. I'm sure you've seen videos of him.
Okay,
Um he's in it. He's funny.
cool.
Ernie
And I
Hudson's in
just
it.
wanted,
He's
well, yeah,
cool.
Ernie Hudson. I would expect him to be.
Yeah, he's cool.
But yeah,
He
with
yeah,
going to Godzilla and Kong, but yeah, all the fight scenes, monster stuff is rad. It was amazing. It's like a Godzilla fans heaven. But then the
nice.
human, the characters are all like a basically exposition joke machine. Jokes or exposition is pretty much the dialogue that we get from the character. There's one that's like the Ace Ventura of kaiju, um, and he's like this Aussie guy, but it is got all the cheesiness of like the Showa era and like of Final Wars,
Nice.
but the monster fights compensate so much for that because it's just so rad. And like with Godzilla evolved, I mean, there's literally a line of dialogue in the movie where they say, "Okay, God's." This is the exact dialogue, but it pretty much sums it up. Godzilla's gonna fight this Alpha Class Titan Tiamat because Godzilla's gonna fight him to get Tiamat's energy to evolve into a greater form, so he can help Kong in this big battle and whatever. And then Godzilla does exactly that on screen after they explain it.
That's
Like
awesome.
literally right after
I
that
mean,
happens,
sometimes
he fights this big sea serpent.
usually I don't
Um,
love like heavy exposition, but sometimes if it's the right kind of
blatantly,
movie,
like it's a
it's
satire.
okay.
Like,
Like,
and it feels like a parody of the original, the 2014 Godzilla. Like it's so far removed from that at this point. But but there's parts where like Kong is like getting jumped on, but like a a group of apes, and like but he proves himself to be strongest and everything, and there's the orangutan guy, but like there's literally a part where they're like fighting 100 Kongs, and then you have like the ice Godzilla and then the orangutan riding him, and then Godzilla, Kong, they all charge in battle, and then there's a slow-mo part. Like it is just balls to the wall, just crazy. Anyways, that's all I gotta say
I
about it.
have to watch that. That
I don't
sounds
want to drag this
great.
on. And the fact, I just want to say this. We're gonna end this here because the fact that we're talking about movies and stuff and this big
I actually,
existential
I
stuff.
want,
Do you have more to put onto
I
this?
have something else. Yeah.
Okay, what do you have?
I want to talk about before we end this because this is actually a good segue. We're talking about movies. I want to talk about
Okay,
a little bit about depictions of the afterlife in movies.
okay,
Some of our favorite ones. So I've got
let's hear it.
Screen Rant, which we all know is AI generated these days, I assume. So they've got
Oh yeah, absolutely.
a list of movies with depictions of the afterlife. So some of these I've not seen.
Sixth Sense, Bruce
Six,
Willis.
and I think that's in there. All right, so we're just gonna go down this list, and some of these, if we've not
You
seen, we'll
didn't know
just
he was a ghost the whole time.
oh yeah, but we'll just pass over
All
stuff. But we can talk about stuff we want to. Enter the
right.
Void, 2009. I've not seen that. I don't know that movie.
Ooh, I is that the one
Um,
that's like the Lovecraftian kind of thing?
uh,
I still need to check that
Gaspar
out.
Noé's experimental art film follows the journey of an American drug dealer shot down in Tokyo who is subsequently condemned to a purgatorial out-of-body experience. I've never seen this.
Be Lovecraftian. That could
Uh,
be.
What Dreams May Come, 1998. I've not seen that. It's with Robin Williams.
Oh, well.
I'll have to watch that. Beetlejuice.
Yeah,
This is a fun one.
that's a weird
New
dimension you go into.
new Beetlejuice
Where you're,
movie coming out soon. Beetlejuice
yeah,
2. They
yeah. Is
finally
Michael Keaton back? And
he is, and they
am
finally
I on the right?
decided to pay Tim Burton enough money to
To
actually
make a
do
film?
it. Yeah, because Tim
Yeah.
Burton notoriously did not want to do a Beetlejuice 2. Um,
Right.
I like
Even though
the
he wanted to do more Batman, but Warner Brothers didn't like the dark, twisted. Like
yeah.
after Batman Returns,
I like Beetlejuice.
Han
I
Solo.
showed my fiance. She had never seen it. I made her watch it this last Halloween. Um, she
It's
liked
a perfect
parts of
Halloween
it.
movie.
Oh yeah, it's great. She liked parts of it. She thought the ending was underwhelming, which I don't disagree with. It kind
You
of
just
just
remember
ends.
the imagery.
The
That's
imagery
pretty
is
much all.
great. I think Beetlejuice is a movie that just has some great scenes and some great ideas. But yeah, it
I
kind
fall
of
more on the Nightmare Before Christmas spectrum of Tim Burton than
oh yeah.
Beetlejuice.
Oh, same. Night
But
Before
yeah.
Christmas is great. But like it has some great stuff in it. Beetlejuice. The whole
Okay, but anyways,
um, let's see. A Ghost Story, 2017. I don't
okay,
remember
never heard of
that.
that one.
The Lovely Bones. Oh, I have seen that. Um,
What's that about?
yeah, I don't remember.
Hmm, okay,
I just know
great.
I've
Must have really been a good movie then.
I just know I've seen it. It's Saoirse Ronan. I know that. Afterlife. Uh,
Ghostbusters?
I don't know. No, I don't know that one. These are
Yeah,
not
Egon becomes a ghost in
these are not
Afterlife.
movies. These are not good movies. Well, maybe they are. Just this is not a good list.
I haven't seen them, therefore they're not good.
Heaven Can Wait. Have you
Um,
seen that?
I did ask. I no. Oh, and then you have all the Christian movies. They're like, oh, heaven is
All
real,
right,
and
this is the
heaven is
lame
real
list. I'm gonna
too.
find
And
a
then you
different
have
list.
uh, God is real, or all those movies. Um, I asked Chat GPT, and we do
Ah,
got to wrap this
nice.
up to be honest. But I asked Chat GPT, what happens after we die? Rank the theories from least to most desirable.
Ah.
Okay,
Oh, here we
the
go.
most.
Hold on. Oh, I got another
Okay,
list
okay.
here with a few other. A Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Yeah, that
Great
has a
movie.
great depiction of the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
Um,
The things I remember the most about it
they
is
become ghosts, right?
yeah, that's the whole idea, whole
Well, and then
premise
they
of the
play
movie
Jazz
is
the Grim Reaper, and it's based off that other movie. Um,
it's a
what is it? This it's a
um
parody of Seven Deadly. No, what is it called? But there's the movie where the knight. I don't know if he
it's
plays
an old
Chess
like
the Grim Reaper.
it's originally like the Seventh Seal.
The
That's
Seven.
what
We
yeah,
talked about that
it's a
long.
Swedish it's like a
When we
Swedish
did our
movie.
Bill and
Yeah.
Ted review,
Go listen to our Bill and Ted
like episode 12.
episode. Yeah,
I
that's
think that's just when we upgraded our mics, so the audio quality
yeah.
should be all right. Uh,
I like that
uh,
movie. It's not as good as Excellent Adventure, but it's still good. Oh, Seventh Seal is on here too. This list.
it's the same.
Beetlejuice, Sixth Sense.
Yeah, it's
Good
fun.
movie.
The kid sees it.
I have learned to hate M. Night Shyamalan.
I
He
I just
just
know what to expect with M Night Shyamalan.
M.
It's
Night
either gonna be like an underrated like
M. Night Shyamalan is a director who has made some
he's a wild card,
fantastic movies,
but he's also made
but he usually makes
Dreg
just terrible
like the
movies.
worst. Yeah.
So like recently, I don't know what movie it was called, what it's called, but I saw a trailer for a new one coming out, and
Beach that makes
and
you old.
and I remember seeing the trailer,
Is
and
it the beach that makes you old?
I don't know. I remember seeing the trailer and being like, "That looks okay," and then M from director M Night Shyamalan, and I was like, "Oh, never
Oh,
mind." All
I just know about his Avatar adaptation.
right, that's all the movies that look interesting
Okay,
on there. Yeah,
let's go through this real quick. This is what
yeah.
ChatGPT has to say. Number one, And this is like ChatGPT's rankings on least to most desirable. Number one, non-existence slash annihilation, which I would disagree that that's the least desirable. I would say hell is. But
Yeah,
anyways,
I would
this
take
theory suggests
non-existence to hell.
because you don't know what does it matter? This theory suggests that consciousness ceases to exist after death, and there is no afterlife or continuation of the self. Many people find this idea undesirable as it implies a complete cessation of existence, which can be unsettling or frightening. You know, if that is the truth, I've come to terms with that
It
because
is.
you're not conscious.
It is. It is. I will admit,
Well, it's a little spooky.
it is from an
It's
existential perspective kind of frightening.
is, but if you're not conscious, then
But
so what?
it's also like it's the neutral
It's neutral. Yeah,
option. Yeah.
it's the neutral option. Number two, reincarnation. This is kind of the chaotic good option, I would say. Um, the belief, yeah, we talked about reincarnation. So yeah, it has number two, reincarnation. Number three, heaven slash hell. According to
Yeah.
various religious beliefs, such as Christianity and Islam, individuals are judged after death and sent to either state of eternal bliss or punishment. Many find the concept of heaven desirable, that promises eternal happiness, while hell is typically viewed as undesirable due to eternal suffering. Yeah. Number four, and this is interesting. Afterlife slash paradise. It has as number four.
Yeah.
Some belief systems propose the existence of an afterlife where individuals are reunited with loved ones and experience eternal peace and happiness. This idea is often seen as desirable as its continuation of relationships and positive experience beyond death. So that just completely ignores the option that fell, which some like you talk about Mormons, like it's really hard to get to the before dark or whatever it's called, the
The eternal darkness,
eternal
or
darkness. Yeah.
is that what it's called? I don't know.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of like that. And then number five, we touched on this a bit, but spiritual unity slash oneness. Certain philosophies and spiritual beliefs suggest that after death, the individual soul merges with
Outer
the
darkness. Sorry.
of the outer darkness. But
Yeah.
the individual soul merges with the greater universal consciousness and R slash energy. This concept may be desirable for those seeking a sense of connection and transcendence beyond individual existence.
I don't know. As someone who's not spiritual or religious or anything, I struggle to wrap my head around that idea of my consciousness becoming one, but I like the idea of it.
I have a question. Not what you believe or what you think is most likely. What do you think is the best afterlife
The best one?
that you would desire personally?
Heaven, I guess. I don't
I
know.
mean,
That
yeah, I mean
sounds
that's pretty
pretty cool.
straightforward, right? Yeah.
I like
I
the
mean,
idea of reincarnation. I mean,
reincarnation would be a good second.
I think
It's
reincarnation
close, really close.
is a fair sounding
Yeah,
idea.
that's fair. Yeah.
Um, I I don't know.
You
Well,
don't have to say what you believe or what you.
so there's also other
Well, it's
we
really hard to say that.
just be you know there's other ideas of afterlife that other cultures and people in the past have believed in too.
Oh yeah, we've
I
only
mentioned at the
really
beginning of this episode
scratched the tip of
Socrates.
the iceberg.
So Socrates kind of talked about the idea of death in the afterlife and theorized basically um, there's either two options: either there is nothingness, either like an eternal sleep, or there is
Which
an
that is
afterlife.
the eternal
Yeah,
sleep idea is a bit different
yeah. Well,
than the cessation, the
yeah,
non-existence, because
eh,
there's this weird thing when you sleep, it's comforting.
yeah.
You're not
Well, well, he
actively
base
thinking.
well
You're not
Socrates basically goes like there's either an eternal sleep or there's an afterlife. If it's an eternal
right,
sleep, that's cool because I get to sleep. We all know we need it. Like
and it's not
um and if it's an afterlife, and I get to hang
Basically,
out
it's
with all these
this.
cool dead people. So that's cool too. But like in Socrates's
Well, yeah, and Bill and Ted to hang out with Einstein, whatever.
yeah, well in Socrates his idea of the
Still
afterlife
hurts.
though is not, and this is a common thing in like the ancient world where it's like it wasn't like heaven where eternal paradise. It was just an afterlife. It
You just have
wasn't
another life. You just
yeah,
continue.
it wasn't like
And does
so
that
so like Socrates, for example, talks about it as his idea of what an afterlife would look like would be like our spirits move on into like, he believed in like Tartarus, but like he envisioned it as kind of like Athens, but just full of spirits. Um and
just
he's
imagine
and
philosophers and yeah, just
well
wondering about Athens?
he talks about it as like so like if his idea of what an afterlife would be would have been like um it's
Togas and
it's we don't have our physical bodies anymore. So if you were a person in life who really liked doing physical things like playing sports, you probably would hate it. But if you're a person like him who just likes thinking a lot, you'd
basically
probably love it. Like
your consciousness lives on,
yeah, so like he kind
or
of
your
imagined
spirit
it
lives
out.
on,
And
but
I
it's
just bring that up as like we talk about heaven and hell and reincarnation, but there's so many different ideas
oh yeah,
if you believe in an afterlife of what an afterlife could look like.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, no one can really say, and even if you say you don't believe in afterlife, but you can't say that it's non-existent. I mean, you can't.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
just going on and on and on. Everybody, I mean,
not saying
thing,
I believe in it though, but I think I like the idea of reincarnation.
yeah,
Not saying I believe
reincarnation.
in it. I don't necessarily believe in it. I don't know, obviously, but
Yeah, we don't
I
know.
like the idea of it.
Truly.
It's a good idea.
Well, and that the whole thing with religion, and you could tear it apart. You could argue though it's all just a construct, just a scheme to control people and make people fear God and just all that stuff. But like but aside from all that thing with religion and spirituality, you're putting your faith on that. You don't know, but
Yeah.
you put on faith that that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So no one truly knows. I don't care how smart you think you are. I don't care if you're atheist, Christian, Islamic, if you're Mormon, if you're Hindu, Buddhist, etc. And I do not say this to offend anybody. And if you are offended by this,
Well,
I apologize, but
well,
also at
I
the same
mean,
time, like we can't know. You put your faith
let
on
me
it.
put it
And you
this
cannot
way.
deny that you put your faith on God if you believe in God.
Let me put it this way. Without bringing my beliefs about religion or God into it, what I said earlier about like the reality we're experiencing, what Kant says
Mm-hmm.
about, regarding the brain in the jar thing of like, oh, until we have reason to believe otherwise, we should treat this as if this is
Yeah.
real. I think this should apply to the idea of an afterlife as well. Is
Yeah.
until I have a reason to think that a certain kind of afterlife exists, then I'm going to go about my life focusing on the reality that I'm experiencing.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
there's plenty, and this is one of the reasons why I like moral theories
mhm,
that are not religiously based.
yeah.
Other than the fact that I'm not religious, but this is without stepping on people's religions. This is a reason to, I think, is say heaven exists, say reincarnation exists, whatever. I'm going to live my life based off a moral theory that doesn't require religious belief.
Yeah.
And I think, and then when I
You're
get to the point where I die and transition into death, whether it's ceasing
you're
to
rolling the
exist
dice.
or there is an afterlife
Yeah,
or whatever, I can still be confident in myself and say, I'm
that
happy with the life I lived.
you're happy with the life you lived, and whatever happened after,
Yeah.
it's up
Yeah.
to fate.
So,
Um, it's up to the
yeah.
universe. Uh, and and the ultimate catch to all this, when we finally do find out what happens after, can't tell anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even a ghost can't tell anybody. And if a ghost did, you'd call bullshit because it's a stupid ass ghost. Like you're playing a Ouija board with your friends in high school, and then you throw in
I've never
one little
played
story here. I have
I've
one
never
little
played
story.
with a Ouija board.
So I have one little story, then we can end all this. And
Yeah.
this is a side tangent, but it's
I want to hear
related.
it though.
My senior teller, he's atheist. He's clear. He made that clear to everybody. But he but he does believe in like good vibes and bad vibes and like not messing with like black magic and voodoo and stuff like that. He's like, yeah, I'm not gonna mess with that stuff. That's just
Yeah.
inviting negative energy. That's just
That
bad vibes.
there's
Um,
there's a weird thing where that where like I personally am not spiritual. I'm not
but
superstitious, but I I don't say the S word.
you're just a bit stitious.
You know what I'm talking about with
Yes.
cryptids and native stuff.
Oh yeah,
I
exactly. Yeah.
don't say that
So
word.
you're not superstitious. You're just
Just
stitious,
I'm just a
as
little
Michael Scott would
stitious.
say.
Yes. So like
But anyways, uh, my supervisor told me that back in the 80s, him and his friends got a Ouija board, and or no, yeah, they got a Ouija board, but they didn't really play with it. They played with it a little bit, and they didn't really get any like cool like results or whatever. It's just whatever they because they with the Ouija boards, ultimately you have to just buy into it for it to work, unless you do believe
yeah,
in it. Unless you,
I
but
don't know. I've
he
never
has
used
had
I've
an
never played
experience.
with one. I don't
And
know.
by the way, he's a big Dodgers fan. By the way, that's another side thing.
Hell yeah.
He said he used to
Respect.
work in Rancho Cucamonga, so there you go. But
What?
yeah, but
Cool.
uh, yeah, he used to like put up drywall there or something like that.
Very cool.
But
Have you told him that
him and his
that's where
friend,
I'm from?
well, yeah, we talked about it.
That's fun.
But he had a Ouija board. Him and his friend, just him and his friend were at his house. His parents were gone. They were the only people there. They were playing pool, and they went to get food. And they finished the game of pool. The only thing he said that was left on the table because they just ran to get food, they didn't put anything up, was the cue ball.
Uh-huh.
Well, supposedly when they got back, uh, the 8 ball was back on the table and the cue ball was nowhere to be found. Or no, the cue ball was there, but the 8 ball and the cue was back on the table, like ready to play the final shot.
Uh-huh.
And that freaked them out. But they were like, it could have been an earthquake, or maybe they just forgot they left it like that. Whatever. But it was just a little weird. But then he said, like a few months later, they invited some girls over, and it was just the four of them. It was another situation where there was no one else aside from them. They were hanging out. The girls noticed the Ouija board, and I I can't remember if he said they played with it or not, but he showed them where it was. He had a huge, he had a stack of board games in his closet, top of his closet. The Ouija board was like bottom or like the second to the bottom.
Uh-huh.
Like you had Sorry, Monopoly, Jumanji, and the had a Ouija board.
Yeah.
um, you can get them from Hasbro, from Toys R Us.
You can buy them at
Um,
Walmart, yeah.
yeah.
Like
uh,
not kidding.
for
I've
the
seen them at
Durango, Walmart didn't carry it for the longest time because people complained about it because it's from here. But
yeah, they do now
but
though.
yeah.
At least
Uh,
last time I was there. Maybe it was
but but he showed him that, and then they were hanging out later on, and then they hear this big thump, and it sounded like it came from the closet. And he looks, he opens the closet, and the Ouija board is on top of all the other board games.
Oh, nice. Huh.
So that happens, and he's like, fuck this, and he throws it in the dumpster. And he said the dumpster was actually right outside his window.
Oh.
So he throws it in, and and I was like, all right, and that's the end of it, right? And he was like, no, it's not the end of it. Well, supposedly, uh, later on that night or something, he goes and like puts something in his closet, and the Ouija board is back in its place, and not only back in its place, but on top of everything again.
Oh.
Uh, and then he said he physically walked down to the dumpster, threw it in there, and slammed it shut, and then he never saw it again. Uh, and he could be bullshitting me. He could be misremembering things, because it's from the 80s, or they could have been high.
Yeah.
Who knows? Because he did specify. He was like, I'm not gonna go into too much detail on like what we were doing
Right. Right.
at the moment, but he swears on it, and because we joked around about like bringing a Ouija board into the branch for shits and giggles. And he was like, hell no, if you do that, I'm transferring. And, uh, that opens another can of worms. A
I mean,
Ouija board. And there's,
yeah, I
it
mean,
is a means of communicating
I feel like,
with those in afterlife.
this
But,
could be a whole episode in it by itself, which maybe we can do sometime.
what? Ouija board
But well, no,
stories?
but the idea of
Or
like
just,
we talk about the afterlife and theories about it, but there are people out there who have stories
near death
that they've
experiences?
experienced, near-death
Either
experiences or stories with
communicate, yeah,
ghosts
seances,
and well, my mom, for
communications.
example, she stayed at the Hotel del Coronado down near San Diego.
San, San Diego, yeah.
Yeah,
Or in Coronado Island, right?
Coronado. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, in San
You've been
Diego.
in the area, I
Yeah, I've
think.
been there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Uh, and she stayed that hotel's haunted. It's famous for being haunted.
yeah. I
And
wanted to see. Yeah,
she stayed in the hotel room that was like the floor, like same room, but the floor beneath of like the
someone was killed
haunted
or whatever.
hotel room. And
Yeah,
she swears that she had some
dude.
experiences that night. Um,
And that's another
and
kind of
and
thing where
it's this crazy thing where it's like, okay, we say these things, we theorize, we try to be like philosophers about it, but then people
but until you see something,
really they have experiences. And I mean, when someone tells me they have a ghost experience, it's not that I'm saying that I 100% believe that that's exactly like
or that's what it was, or
that's what it was, but I
it was just
believe
their perception.
that they believe it, that their
Yeah,
experience is what they're saying
especially
it
people you
was.
trust.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I'm not, when someone tells me a story of them with
and
a
you know
ghost,
what?
I don't think that they're making it up or exaggerating.
And
So that's a
I'm this.
whole
Yeah,
thing, and who
I'm this
knows,
way.
maybe.
I'm this way. But and I know you're also this way, despite how, well, I don't want to make any claims about who you are or whatever, but like logical, quote unquote, you try to be, right?
I don't I I don't try to be. I'm
Or
a philosopher.
it's the like you said about Kant, it's the reality you live in, so you accept that, and until you're
I'm a
disproven
philosophy
otherwise,
nerd. I don't claim to
you're a
be
philosophy nerd,
a logical
a
person.
logicist, yeah.
Uh,
But either way, you're
yeah,
open minded. So like, if you personally saw something like that, that would open Pandora's box,
yeah.
and then
Well, it's
it
like
would shift your whole paradigm.
I am, for
Um,
example, a self-proclaimed atheist, but I used to be more cynical about it. But
yeah,
these days,
you sure did.
I'm more like, hey, if I when I say I'm atheist, what I mean is that when someone says the statement God exists, my response is okay. Um, are you going to provide some sort of argument for why or how?
Right.
And I have yet to hear an argument for why or how
That makes me
that
feel like you're
convinces
not
me.
atheists.
But that is what atheist is,
You're
because atheist is not a belief
I thought
system.
that was more agnostic.
No, agnostic is that you believe there's a God, you just don't follow a religion.
Okay, I always thought it was
A,
just like you're
no, no,
open-minded.
no.
Like
Atheist is. I mean,
you neither
I
believe or not
there are
disbelieve.
atheists out there who will say with certainty there is no God. I'm more like, but I think a lot of atheists are more like
But that's a
see it as more
fallacy.
like atheist. It's not a belief system; it's a lack of a belief system.
Right.
It's it's
And
a it's
those
a
who
I'm
say
not
there's
saying there is no God. I'm saying I don't believe there's a God.
right, and those
If
who
you were to
deal in
provide me
absolutes,
with adequate an adequate argument and evidence, I
yeah,
would
and
change
it
my
just doesn't
mind.
work that way.
But I have
And
yet to experience that. I
unless
don't know.
you saw something or had some kind of
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
enlightenment,
Maybe I
because
saw
it could happen. Who
Slimer,
knows?
and
You can see Slimer, yeah.
maybe I see a ghost of John Belushi, and I'll be like, well, shit.
Well, there's stuff out there. I
There's
don't know what it
something
is,
out
but
there.
but
The Blues Brothers,
uh,
apparently.
but anyone that deals in absolutes like that, there's no such thing as an absolute. So and
Yeah. It's
all you you Reddit moderators out there uh, that believe absolutely that there's no God, or absolutely there's no such thing as ghosts, or absolutely there's no reincarnation, or whatever. Sorry, but
yeah.
you're gonna
It's
be wrong, and you're gonna be wrong on one of those, or if not all of those. And in fact, everything we've talked about, everything we've thought about, may not have anything to do what it actually is. It could be
probably
something that we cannot
probably
even comprehend. Like we
probably
can't
most of
even.
us are wrong
Yeah,
about a lot of
it's
stuff.
something.
I mean, it's the
It's
number one
something that
thing.
we could like never even
It's one
come
thing
up
I
with a
learned
concept for.
taking philosophy courses in school was, and this is a pet peeve I have in TV shows. I see this all the time. A while back, me and my partner were watching the Criminal Minds. One of the characters was like doing some studying philosophy, taking some classes, and he goes, "You know, that's what I like about philosophy is there's no wrong answers." And I'm like, "No philosophy major would ever fucking say that.
No,
There's no wrong answers." No. No, philosophy comes down to there is a right answer. We're just arguing over about which one is right.
well, because to
Because
say there's no
and
wrong
maybe
answers is
and honest
also
like honestly,
that's
maybe
also an absolute.
yeah, well, it's like
Uh,
maybe we're all wrong and we just haven't figured out the right answer yet.
or we
That's
won't
a
figure it out
possibility, or
until
maybe we never will, or all that sort of stuff. But there
our the
is,
only time we will is when we die, but we can't tell
yeah,
anyone.
but there
So
is a right answer out there.
yeah, it is out there,
A good philosopher will admit
and
that
that's why I've said it.
they might not have the right answer.
I've said it before, and I mentioned this earlier. Record this podcast, it's gonna exist for a long, long, long time, at least until mankind implodes on itself, however long that goes
Until the
on.
internet shuts down.
Until the internet shuts down,
Yeah.
and until whatever hard drive this ends up being stored on.
Because
It's
I'm
on my
sorry
shelf. I
because
have
I'm
it on
sorry
it's on
I'm
my
not gonna
computer.
save this down on a floppy drive and a floppy disk and
And like some vault dweller's gonna find.
some
No,
fault. Yeah.
but I propose, if you are a spirit, please contact us. I would love that. And if you're a
Yes.
time traveler,
Yes.
come on, give us something. Come on,
Yeah.
we are
I doubt
asking for it. Do it.
I'm
And
doubtful
and
it's gonna happen, but
according to time travel, you should be able to do it right now. And I can read.
yeah.
Text me, man.
Yeah. I doubt it's gonna happen, but yes, I agree.
And it should happen retroactively right now. Because that's how time travel works. Unless you mind wiped us. Anyways,
Yep.
uh, this has gone on way too long. We will see you next week. Had a lot of fun with this. This was really
Yes,
cool.
this is
I
a good episode.
definitely want to do more stuff like this, open-ended, philosophical questions. Um, I've even thought about like us doing a little debate or something just for fun.
Oh,
Uh,
totally.
you know,
Yes.
but just for fun. But that could definitely get heated.
Just for
But
fun. Yeah, we got to keep
just
it
for
civil.
fun,
You know how
have
both of
it
us
civil.
have a
Yeah.
tendency to be
Well, you get you get really I would say just aggressively enthusiastic with your beliefs and philosophy. And
yes,
I can
yes.
also get that way, but I just get frustrated more than
Let's
anything.
just put it this way. We both have a tendency when we're put in situations to be assholes.
Yeah. Because what type of asshole we are is
Yeah,
different,
yeah,
but it can
yeah.
be different, or it can be the same, or. But anyways, we will see you
If
next
we
week.
do that, we'll set
Yeah,
rules so we don't be
it was set
assholes.
standards.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll set standards. But anyways, we will see you next week for a new episode of the Odd Drunk Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you didn't get offended. I hope you just had fun with it. If you have any ideas, let us know and
Yes.
give us a download, like, rating, review on your platform of choice. And I also wanted to give a quick shout out, and it's kind of a funny coincidence that we've covered some Japanese stuff, but we have some Japanese listeners,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
this is actually the first time that I've seen Japanese listeners in a long time, or maybe if ever. I'm sure we've had some before, but I just want to give a shout out to our listeners in the land of the rising
Yeah.
sun. Hope is all is well. I've always wanted to travel to Japan. Looks awesome. Uh, and I am sorry for our mispronunciations on the Wolverine episode.
Yes, yes.
I apologize. And Godzilla and any
Yes.
Japanese movie
I'm
or
very
whatever
bad at
we've talked about.
pronouncing Japanese
Uh,
names and stuff.
but
Very
anyway,
bad.
we really appreciate it. It's cool to have listeners all the way over there in
Yeah.
Japan. Hope, like I said, hope all is well.
And
And
every once in a while we say it, you said it briefly there,
but we're a
but
bunch of just a dumb American
yeah. Well,
boys over
you said it
here.
briefly there a moment ago,
What?
but if any of you listening here have a topic you want us to cover, let us
Please,
know. Shoot us a message on
please.
Instagram, Facebook. Probably Instagram is the
At All Drunk
easiest
Pod.
way to get a
Well,
hold of
I'm going
us.
Facebook dark for a while personally.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so
go on
Instagram.
so you can shoot us a message on Instagram. Um, I
Facebook's
I
malware.
I can guarantee you right now, if it is not inappropriate, if it's a
And
good
honestly,
idea, we'll do it.
inappropriate for us. It would
Yeah.
have to be something very
Yeah. I mean,
demonstrable. But
what I mean is we're not getting a huge influx of people suggesting topics. So
yeah. So we'd love to hear that.
your voice will be heard.
Also, the silent majority that just enjoys listening, or at least downloads us, thank you.
Yes.
Anyways, the fact that anyone likes listening to this is pretty cool in my opinion. Anyways,
Yes.
we'll see you next week for another episode of the Odd Drunk Pod.
This is not a test. I repeat, this is not a test. The Odd Drunk Podcast recommends you follow their Instagram and join their Facebook group for more fun content. To visit all of our current streaming and social media platforms, visit the link tree in the description. If you enjoy the show, we would be appreciated it if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts. The Odd Drunk Podcast would like to remind you to drink responsibly and not to drink and drive.